So the next thing we're going to talk about is food labeling. So that's like labeling foods as good foods, bad foods, healthy, unhealthy, and kind of what that can lead to in the long run. So often we'll label certain foods, like the more junk foods, as like, pizza, chocolate, your sweets, things like that. We'll label them as bad food or junk food. And that just kind of leads us to negative feelings as well. So like a negative word leads to negative feelings. So yeah.
Yeah, I think when, as Leanne said, it can lead to negative feelings. So when you have something that you've labeled as bad, you're going to feel bad for it. You're going to feel guilty for it. It's not going to make you feel good. So it just has this sort of like spiraling effect on you.
Yeah, I think we tend to do it out of a good place, though. Like the intentions usually are good, not bad. But we do, don't we? Like, oh, well, if I label something as, bad or whatever, and I know that this is a food that I should be eating in moderation, because ideally that's what we want to do. We want to be having those foods. They all have a place and space, absolutely, but in moderation. So if I give it a bad label, then I'm going to have less of it. That's like the intention, which makes sense. It really does. But we never want any food to come with, like, you should never feel guilt or shame or anxiety or any negative emotion about a food. Like, the only time
you there to be enjoyed.
Absolutely. The only time you should ever feel negative about food, in my opinion, is if it tasted shit. That's a bit disappointing. If obviously you are allergic or it's gone off, or if you stole it, like that, you can feel bad about it then.
Steal food.
But other than that, there should be no negative emotions at all. And sometimes it's not always negative emotions that are given to foods as well. That is a problem. It's positive. So an example is looking at things as little treats or little rewards. Because if you think about, it sounds really harsh, this, but if you think about it with like your dog or your child, if you're giving them a treat, how do they react and respond? They want it more. They're excited. They're more motivated to do it. So if you're labeling food as treats, the desire for that food and the desirability factor of it just increases massively. So what we want you to do is look at food, and it's really hard to do this at first, but just think of it as all neutral.
Yep.
There's no good, there's no bad.
Absolutely.
Nothing's on a hierarchy. Literally just look at it as flat line.
Food is food.
Food is food.
Yep.
And all we want is that if you look at a certain food and think, right, this food has more nutrients, it's more of a whole food, therefore it is better for my body from a health perspective, it makes me feel better. So I should be prioritizing those foods. But no food is bad. No food is off limits. So what we want you to do in your time working with us and beyond is really start to call yourself out on this, because it's a very cultural thing, isn't it? People do it in the office, people do it amongst families. And I'm not saying you have to get into heated arguments if other people say it and you go, no, don't say that. But just think about how you feel about it and start to, shift your language to, like, if you go and have a chocolate bar, just call it for what it is.
Yeah.
Just a chocolate bar. If you've had a week where you felt that you've really prioritized nutrient-dense foods and you've gotten loads of different plant-based foods, loads of different fruits and vegetables and protein sources, don't tell yourself you've been good. Just be like, well, you know what? I've had a really, really, really good focused week on my diet and I've worked really hard. And that is good that I've worked hard, but the behaviors and the food choices, that doesn't make you a good person, because it doesn't make you a bad person for having some process. Because there's going to be some weeks as well where you're not always going to have that balance. And there is no reason to feel negative about that. Like if you went, when you go on holiday is a great example. Like your balance might get thrown off a bit. Or if you've ever gone away for a day trip and there's just no great food options apparently, and you just look around like, well, I've got to work with this. It's not your fault. And that's absolutely fine.
Life and these things happen.
Yeah. So it's really important to do is just call yourself out, because it will affect your attitude and relationship towards food. And I think you will find like how much you crave and desire certain foods massively shifts as well when you don't put things on such a pedestal and hierarchy as well.
Absolutely.
I think as soon as you label something as bad, like this chocolate bar is bad, I can't have it because it's bad, you're going to want it so much more than you did before you labeled it
Humans
bad.
are all rebels.
And then the more that you're restricting that because it's a bad food, that's when you finally you get your hands on it. That's when you overeat and you kind of...
Yes, there's just absolutely no benefit in doing
Don't just
it.
have the one chocolate bar. You have
No,
five.
exactly. Everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation. No food is good unless it's tasting amazing, but everything's good. It should taste amazing. If you're eating stuff that doesn't taste good, that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
It's only bad if it's gone off, you're allergic to it, tastes
stole
shit,
it.
or you stole it. That's our rules moving forward.